What's up, YouTube? Reacts content for the day. The Joe Rogan Experience with John Kiriakou. This is a really long video, so we're only going to watch around 20 minutes of it. So, yeah.
So you were saying you replaced Mike Baker?
Yeah, Mike's a great guy. He was a good officer. He doesn't really talk about his work a lot. Maybe it's because a lot of years have passed, but he was the real deal. I replaced him in Athens, and he had done a lot of preliminary legwork in Athens. Athens was a tough place. At the time, the American government spent money on security in Athens than they spent anywhere else in the world, including Beirut.
Why?
It was a combination of two things. There were two indigenous Greek groups that were exceedingly dangerous. One was called Revolutionary Organization 17 November. They had killed the CIA station chief, two U.S. defense attachés, just bad guys all around. The other was called Popular Revolutionary Struggle. And then on top of that, you had Abu Nidal, the
I have never heard
Libyans,
of
the
like,
PFLP, the PFLP-GC, the DFLP. Everybody was there. Because there was this informal agreement between the Greek government of Andreas Papandreou at the time and these terrorist groups that if you don't kill Greeks, we'll leave you alone.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. But killing Americans wasn't part of the deal, so it was every man for himself.
Wow. Your story's
Dude, that's a fucked up deal. If I was like a military general, I would not take that.
pretty nuts, man.
And
your story of getting in trouble and eventually going to prison for something that was what they were doing, what you reported on, was completely illegal, and you were completely honest about it. And it was essentially about the U.S. torture program.
Right.
Tell us how this all started. Like, how long had you been involved in the CIA?
Oh, by then I had been in the CIA.
Bro, every time I think of the CIA torture program, I think of the mission where you have to torture someone in GTA 5 with Trevor Phillips and Davey.
Well, by the time I got to Pakistan as the head of counterterrorism operations after 9/11, I'd been in the CIA almost 13 years. And I was responsible for all counterterrorism operations in the country. Al-Qaeda was running out of Afghanistan into Pakistan because we were bombing the daylights out of them. And so my job was to...
When was this? When was this? Like, I don't... Like, I know that, like,
just hold
this was
them
during
or
the Iraq
send them
War,
to trial was
but
the
I don't know,
original
like,
idea.
what year it was.
And we were planning at the time for our first big name capture, right? Bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri. We had killed Mohammed Atef. He was the head of what they called military affairs for Al-Qaeda. We killed him at Tora Bora. But then there was Abu Zubaydah. And then there was this unknown person that we later learned was Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. So we were looking for any of these 4 or 5 people. And then there were others, those responsible for the embassy bombings in Africa, the USS Cole bombing. So it just so happened that in February of 2002, we got a lead on Abu Zubaydah. And we captured him. It took us 6 weeks to track him down. And we were close a couple of times. Close where we would bust down the door and there's like an uneaten, like half-eaten sandwich on the counter, a cigarette still burning. Sometimes we were a day or two behind him, but he knew we were looking and he knew we were close. So we finally...
Dude, the level of precaution that those motherfuckers took was off the charts, bro. Like, it was insane, the level of precaution Al-Qaeda and terrorist groups took to make sure
and then the question
high-ranking members
what do you want to do with him?
Bro.
And they told me, hang on to him. We're going to send out a plane, and we'll take it from there. So they did, and I wasn't cleared to know what they were going to do with him, just like the guys on the plane weren't clear to know who it was we had captured and why they were taking this guy, where they were taking him. But
Is that all just need to know?
yeah, it's all need to know. In fact, when I got onto the plane, we 3 FBI agents and I picked him up on this gurney and carried him onto the plane. We had to stand him up and maneuver him onto the plane. Then we laid him across the luggage rack at the back and tied him down. And
Yo, I would be, dude, wouldn't the cargo hull get like cold? Because you gotta think, you're in a plane and you're going 500-600 miles an hour easily. That cargo hull is gonna get so fucking cold.
one of the guys on the plane, he was dressed completely
Just
in black
given
with a
the
black
air.
hood on.
Even
And he
if
says,
the air
"John?"
is
And
hot,
I said, "Who are
it's
you?"
still
He
gonna be
lifts up
cold
his
'cause of
mask
the
and he's
friction
an
and the
old boss
constant
of mine.
wind.
And I said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" He said, "Oh, I came to take your prisoner." I said, "Where are you taking him?" And he said, "I can't tell you. You don't have a need to know." And I said, "No, that's cool." He said, "Who is he anyway?" I said, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry. You don't have a need to know." And he says, "Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Okay, safe travels." And then, your job is to take him from point A to point B, not to become his friend and, get his
Right.
family story. Just like my job is to catch him and hand him over to the next guy, and it's none of my business where he's going. And so when I got back to headquarters in May of that year, I was just standing in the sandwich line at the CIA cafeteria, and one of the senior guys from the Counterterrorism Center came up to me, very casually, and he said, "Oh, hey, I'm glad I ran into you. I meant to ask you, do you want to be certified in the use of enhanced interrogation techniques?" And I had never heard that term before. This was May of 2000.
Dude, asking if you're certified in torture is just insane.
2002. I said, "Enhanced interrogation techniques, what's that mean?" And he goes, "We're going to start getting rough with these guys." Like that. And I said, "What's that mean?" So he describes these 10 techniques. And I said, "I don't know, man. That sounds like a torture program." And he said, "It's not a torture program. We got it cleared by the Justice Department, and the president signed it." He says, "Think about it." I said, "Yeah, give me an hour. I need an hour to think about it." I walked out of the cafeteria. I went up to the 7th floor, which is the executive floor. And there was a very, very senior officer up there for whom I had worked 10 years earlier in the Middle East. Knocked on his door, no appointment or anything. And I said, "Hey, I need some advice. I was just asked if I wanted to be trained in these enhanced interrogation techniques. What do you think of that?" And he said, "First of all, let's call a spade a spade." He said, "This is a torture program. They can use whatever euphemism they want, but this is a torture program, and torture is a slippery slope." He said, "You know how..."
Yeah, dude, dude, some of them just fully admit that it was torture because, like, they knew exactly what they were doing and they still didn't care.
How these guys are. Somebody's going to be a cowboy, they're going to go overboard, and they're going to kill a prisoner. And when that happens, there's going to be a congressional investigation, then there's going to be a Justice Department
this is like some
investigation,
Call of
and
Duty
somebody's
Black
going to go to
Ops 2
prison.
shit.
Do you want to go to prison? I said, "No, I don't want to go to prison." As it turned out, I was the only person who went to prison, but I said, "No, I don't want to go to prison." I went back downstairs. I said, "Listen, I have a moral and ethical problem with this. I think it's illegal, and I don't want any part of it." The funny thing is, I had just captured Abu Zubaydah, who we believed was the number 3 in Al-Qaeda. And I got passed over for promotion. And the reason I got passed over, they said, was because I turned down the training. The head of the Counterterrorism Center said in my promotion panel that I had displayed a shocking lack of commitment to counterterrorism. And then saw that my name wasn't on the promotion list, and he promoted me out of cycle.
That's fucking insane.
So I
That's-
realized then
that's
I was up
fucking
against
crazy.
something that was going to be tough. And then there was a psychiatrist at the agency whom I had known for years. We are in the same men's group. We went to the same church. And he...
Dude, the thing about the CIA is that you have to befriend people just to betray them. Like, you have to befriend people who you're just gonna betray them, dude. you have to befriend them, but you're gonna betray them. And it's like, dude, I would never be able to be a CIA agent, bro. You have to have, like, the most serious mental training, like, on the planet. Because, dude, I saw this documentary about a guy from the FBI that infiltrated the KKK, and actually, like, he grew up around all that and all those biker gangs and shit, and he actually, like, became friends with some of them, and it was just like, oh, this guy's a good dude, it's just wrong place, wrong time. And he had to, like, not rat on them, but, like, snitch on them. I guess that's not the right word either. But he had to turn him in at some point, and, like, the SWAT team kicked down this dude's door. And, like, now his, like, past friends
Happens to
hate
be
him for the
both
rest
a brigadier
of their
general
lives
in the
'cause
Army
they knew
and
he
a
was an
CIA
FBI agent
psychiatrist.
after they went to prison.
And he said to me one day, buddy, you know they call you the human rights guy behind your back. And I said, yeah, I don't care. And he said,
Bro, that would be a good name to have, bro. Standing up for human rights. Like, bro, torture, like, it's not even useful. Like, you don't get information out of it. It's not useful. You don't get anything out of it. I don't know, dude. It's a useless practice in the sense of the prisoner is thinking, well, if they're just going to torture me, then if I give them the information, they're just going to kill me right after because I'm no use to them. So if they're going to kill me anyways, why would I give them any information?
you know that's not a compliment,
the
right?
mind of a torture
And I said,
patient.
Steve,
Or like
they're
a
wrong
torture
about this.
victim.
And I'm right about it. I said, I'm comfortable with the decision that I made. And I just left it at that. I didn't realize, though, how much I had pissed them off until later on.
Yeah, dude, going against
So
like
all
the
you had
government
done
and shit,
essentially
they'll send
was
fucking-
stand
they'll send
up
house into a
for
fucking
your
Walmart
beliefs,
parking
your
lot, bro.
morals, your ethics, and the law. And you said, I don't want to participate in anything that I know to be illegal.
That was the start. Listen,
But
wish...
you're standing out against
Yes,
the group.
and I was the only one. I'm almost ashamed to tell you that they asked 14 of us if we wanted to be trained in the enhanced interrogation techniques. I was the only one who said no.
Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you would have to use them.
I mean, I also understand where the torturers are coming from. Some of them might not necessarily know what enhanced interrogation techniques are. They might think, well, oh, it's just I can get into people's heads. I might go on some crazy mission one day, and they're ambitious. And when someone offers them that, they're gonna take it, thinking it's like better than what they have. And then they get into it, and they're like, oh, this is not what I signed up for. So I can kind of see where people might get tricked, necessarily. Or
You were just going
not
to
really.
be trained in
Oh
them.
no,
But, like-
they
But
were
then-
they
I
were
see
to
where you
use.
can-
And then, but
like,
you would be
misunderstand
required
it.
to use these techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were not trained in them, then what would happen? Would that preclude you from ever being involved in any sort of a questioning,
They wouldn't
interrogation?
need to be trained
Yes,
in them
which
if
is
they weren't going to
funny for
use
a
them,
couple
Joe
of
Rogan.
reasons. Number one,
Damn.
there was no such thing at the time as an interrogation class, right? The FBI has deep, years-long interrogation classes. We never had to interrogate anybody. And in fact, when we started capturing prisoners in Pakistan in January of 2000.
Befriending them and, like, having, like, deep personal conversations and, like, befriending them and, like, thinking that they're your friend and shit will actually help you more in the long run, and it'll get more information, Or people
too.
are corrupt as hell,
I'm
and you
like,
just
well,
pay them
what
a
do you
bunch
want
of
me to
money
ask
to give
him?
you whatever information
I
you
cabled
want.
headquarters.
That's
We
what
caught
the
this guy.
CIA
What do you
does
want me
a
to
lot of
ask
the
him?
time.
Oh, you'll figure it out. Just go with it. I'm like, okay. So I was working with the Pakistani intelligence service, and I said, listen, I'm usually the good cop. Do you want to be the bad cop? And he's like, yeah, I'll be the bad cop. So we bring the prisoner out. We're sitting there looking at him. I said, what's your name? He's like, screw you. The Pakistani whacks him across the face. So I say again, what's your name? Listen, buddy, just give me your name. My friend here, he's not in a very good mood. He's not a very nice guy. Just tell me what your name is. Come on. And then they tell you their name.
Standard.
Yeah.
So, what
I feel like good cop, bad cop works in certain situations where the criminal or the terrorist or whatever is thinking that they can get out of it.
Did you know
if
what
they just
enhanced interrogation
cooperate with the
techniques
good
they were
person
going to
rather than
implement?
the bad
Oh, yeah.
person.
That day in the cafeteria, my colleague explained it in great detail. And a lot of these techniques are not torture, right? If I grab you by the lapels and say, doggone you, answer my questions, that's not torture. Or the first one was called the belly slap. Or the intention slap was another way they called it, where I smack you in the belly, it makes a cracking sound. Maybe it leaves a handprint. It's a little bit embarrassing. That's not torture. But then it graduated quickly to things like waterboarding, which everybody knows about. But there were techniques that were, in my view, that were worse than waterboarding. Like, for example, there was the cold cell. So they strip you naked, they chain you to an eye bolt in the ceiling, so you can't lay or kneel or sit or anything. You can't get comfortable in any way.
I've heard about the cold cell.
And
It's fucking crazy.
they chill the cell to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and then every hour somebody comes in and throws a bucket of ice water on you.
Oh,
But we killed people with that technique. The Justice.
Yeah, dude, people die of hypothermia in the cold room really, really, really fast.
Department never said
I'm sorry
we
I'm not
could kill
talking a lot and
people.
I'm not making a lot of content,
And
but
when
this
we would
How many
video
people
is so
died?
interesting, bro.
At least two with
It's
that
crazy.
technique that the
Just from
agency had
hypothermia?
admitted to from hypothermia.
and there wasn't a protocol in place
Yeah,
to
two
stop
that
them
he
from
knows
dying?
about.
No.
There's
There
definitely
was
hundreds
later,
more, bro.
but in
'Cause
those
this isn't
early
just one
days, no.
story.
Later, we always
There's
had a
probably 100
doctor on
other
scene.
agents
Like,
just
for
like
example,
that.
with Abu Zubaydah, his heart actually stopped during a waterboarding session, and the doctor revived him just so he could be tortured more. It's like, didn't
Yeah,
the Germans
dude,
do that?
That's what I
Come
think
on
is
now.
fucked up.
Now
Like,
we're
if you
doing
kill
it?
him, bro, just let
That's
him
not
go.
cool.
Is there
I don't
any
think it's
other
worth it,
way
bro.
that, like, I know that MK Ultra experimented with a lot of drugs and a lot of different techniques involved in whether it was trying to find the truth out of people or getting people to commit acts. Did they ever implement something where they would give someone something?
That's a good question. The short answer is yes. Not in the very beginning, but they were working with things like truth serum and different drugs like relaxation drugs, gabapentin, stuff like that to sort of.
Yeah, dude, there's some interesting conspiracy theories. I don't personally believe any of them, but there's some interesting conspiracy theories that, like, there's a special antigen or like a virus or like a bacteria that it's called the Australia antigen, and they're gonna like release it amongst the public to take over the world. I highly doubt that
get
that's
you
a
to
true
open
fact,
up.
though.
But remember,
I
too,
very
that
much do not
the
believe in
agency
that
got in
conspiracy
such
theory.
trouble in 75
it
and
is interesting to
76
think about.
before the Church Committee and the Pike Committee about MK Ultra that as soon as Senator Church said, don't destroy the documents, the director went right back to headquarters and ordered them to destroy everything. And so only about 20% of the MK Ultra documents still exist. So we don't really know exactly what it was that was learned in that program, like what worked and what didn't work. We hear these stories about, dosing the fog-laden air of San Francisco just to see if everybody gets sick. We've all read the stories about this bakery in France where apparently we dosed the bread and everybody in the village went nuts. But we don't really have fulsome documentation that we could have used operation.
Yeah, dude. Back in like the
While
1960s
interrogating
and 70s,
prisoners.
like
So
the
just to
CIA was
avoid
going
prosecution,
crazy,
they
bro. Like they were
figured
doing
out a
some
way.
really
Yeah.
weird shit.
That's crazy. And so then whatever they did learn is lost.
Yeah, it's lost.
If there was something, whether it's MDMA or
Right.
I highly doubt that
LSD
they learned
or whatever they
anything from
give
that,
people.
bro.
They worked with,
I don't
with LSD
think
for
that those
20 years, at
experiments got
least.
jack
At
shit,
least
bro.
20 years. You know, there was an operation, it was a sub-operation of MKL.
Yeah, they've known about LSD since the 60s. Dude, I did
Ultra.
hear something
Where,
about, like, they tried to make
they rented a
mind
safe house in San
control
Francisco.
drug with LSD.
They recruited a bunch of hookers
fucking miserably.
and
They just
had them
made
go
people
out and
more
pick up
of a free
Johns,
thinker.
bring them back to the safe house where they thought they were going to get laid, dose them with LSD, and then interrogate them and try to get them to give up their deepest secrets. It's like,
yeah,
what do you
Midnight
do?
Climax.
Yeah, Midnight Climax, exactly. It's like, what? Nobody's agreed to do this. You haven't informed them properly. These are American citizens. You can't just take people off the street.
Yeah, bro, dosing the American, like, population is fucked, bro. I think our government is, like,
And
always up
force
to some really
LSD down their
crazy
throat.
They were
moral
running the
shit,
Haight-Ashbury
but, like,
Free
that was
Clinic.
next
Yeah,
level.
they
Until
were.
right
Like,
after a
holy
month
shit.
after Chaos by Tom
That's
O'Neill
right.
came out. Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah, my
Craziness.
my wife's mom went there. She was a hippie in San Francisco.
Wow.
She went to the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic.
Oh,
it
my
was run
God.
by the CIA, which is so crazy. And it's totally connected to Manson, the Manson
Oh, yeah,
family.
Manson. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Manson was a part of it as well.
It's so nuts. And they wouldn't have even
That's all you do. And your friends and family just
Did
drive
he
away.
say that Charles Manson
so
was a part of the CIA?
They said,
Wait,
yeah,
what?
you got to go across the street to the actual. Decided a couple days later, he started to turn. We should probably bury this guy.
No, wait, what?
Secretary who fainted.
Oh, shit, we lost our...
That was supposed to say, you know, I'm worried about what Libya is going to look like 10 years from now. And then somebody writes a paper about it. He had been there for
think I was, like,
42 years. He had to get a
It was run by the CIA, which is so crazy. And it's totally connected to Manson, the Manson
Oh, yeah,
family.
Manson. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Manson was a part of it as well.
It's so nuts. And
Dude, I
they
really
wouldn't have even known
doubt
about
that
that until
Charles
they found
Manson
the stash
was
of documents.
a member of the CIA.
They connected it all together.
And just think of what's been destroyed,
Right.
what we could have learned.
Exactly. We only know a small fraction of what was done. So is it a case of just
Dude, you weren't gonna
they're-
learn shit, bro.
They're
Trying
not
to control
elected. They're put
people's
into
minds
power.
with, like,
Presidents
drugs
come and
shit
go.
will never
And over the course of their
At
career,
least
20
not for a
years
very,
plus,
very long time.
they just have so much power and so much ability to get things done that they just bypass the law.
Yeah, dude. I think it's crazy that 4 or 5 people, which is less than like 0.00001% of the population, can end the world, bro, in minutes. I don't think anyone should have that much power. I think it should be like a team of like 20, 25 people, and they just like get together and they decide, okay, are we gonna nuke this? Why are we gonna nuke this place? What did they do to us? Like, what exactly is happening and what will be the consequences? I think if a
I
nuclear
think
strike
that's
imminent,
the whole story
then
right there
you
in a
just fire 'em
nutshell.
back,
When I
like
was there, I
Doctrine of
remember
Mad, like
being
nuclear
shocked by some of the
destruction.
old timers who had been there for as long as 40 or 42 years. There was one in particular, he was the National Intelligence Officer for Warning. So he was the one that was supposed to say, you know, I'm worried about what Libya is going to look like 10 years from now. And then somebody writes a paper about it. He had been there for 42 years. He had to get a waiver from the director because he had aged out. Well, these guys make no secret of their belief that they can outwait pretty much any president. Presidents come and go, and these guys are there forever. And so if the president wants them to do something that they don't want to do, they just slow roll it. Just wait until he leaves. And that's the end of it. You know, that's why I say, I've said this in interviews a lot. There is a deep state. You don't have to call it the deep state if you don't want to. You can call it the state. You can call it the federal bureaucracy. You can call it whatever you want. The fact is, it exists. And it's unelected, and it's...
Yeah, dude. People are in the CIA for fucking 40 years as detectives. It's fucking crazy. And the CIA makes decisions. Like, it's not just the president who makes decisions in government. The FBI and the CIA, I would say, have about 75% of the say of, like, the president. Because they're so close and they work so close with the president, and they take orders directly from him, or they'll propose things that the president, like, can do in a certain situation, and they can, like, have the president sign off on it. So, yeah, like, the CIA and the FBI actually make a lot of really important decisions, which I think
generally
is crazy.
unaccountable
how there's,
to
like,
anybody.
You can get
And they
waivers
just wait
to
for
stay
the
longer,
president to leave if they don't want
like
to do
more
what he wants.
power, higher rank.
So you find out about this torture program, you won't participate, so that puts you on the outs. And when do you know that this is going to be like a significant problem in your career?
You know, honestly, I didn't know until well after I left the agency. You know, once I turned this down, and I got this out-of-cycle promotion for the Abu Zubaydah operation.
So I didn't know that he was offered the opportunity to torture people. I just thought he knew about the CIA's torture program. Like, he was told about it by,
I was
like, a
named
colleague or
executive
something.
assistant
But I didn't
to the
know that he
CIA's
was
deputy
offered to
director for
participate
operations.
in it.
And in
Like, I
that
didn't know
position,
that's how he
you
found
have
out that
access
there was a
to
torture
literally
program.
everything that the CIA is doing around the world. And so I'm reading these cables coming back from the secret site, and people are saying, like, whoa, I didn't sign up for this. Nobody said we're going to torture people. I quit. And then they come home. Or there was a secretary who...
Wait, you can just quit the CIA? Bro, you can't just quit the CIA. They've gotta, like, do some paperwork, or you gotta, like, serve a term or something, bro. I don't think you can just quit. Like, this guy has experienced it. Dude, I can't believe you can just quit, bro. I can't believe you can just walk out. Like, that's fucking crazy. I mean, every CIA member, like, I don't know if this is CIA or Secret Service, but I think every Secret Service member has a right to refuse the president's orders if it puts their life at risk.
fainted
I'm not
once
sure,
when
though.
she happened to be in the room while Abu Zubaydah was being tortured.
Not sure.
And she curtailed her assignment. That means she sends a cable to headquarters saying, I'm coming home. I'm not doing this anymore. That is a career-ending decision to curtail an assignment. And I remember thinking, so I'm not the only one who thinks this is illegal. Certainly somebody's going to come out and say something. And nobody. did.
This episode is brought to you by
Yeah, like, I
Happy
can't
Dad.
believe like more people didn't want to like call like some shit on this, bro. All right, bro. All right. Well, that was an amazing video. I really like that. We're not going to watch the whole thing because it's a 2-hour long podcast, and I don't think YouTube will let me upload videos that long. But yeah, that was a good video. And I'll see y'all in the next react. Hopefully y'all like this one. Goodbye.